Just a minute.
502.
It's fine. Go ahead. It wasn't.
In attendance, Eileen Sheridan, Laura Ingram, Ken Hall, Scott Archer, and Jan Wallander.
Scott Edwards.
Scott Edwards. That's who will call you Archer. Scott Edwards. Thank you. My error.
That was our former Parks director.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just gave you maybe a. So the first item on the agenda are the February minutes. Are there any corrections or changes?
Move to approve.
Second.
I actually have a minor correction, just spelling my name. It's Inder.
Thank you. I should have caught that.
So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes
With
the corrections. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Thank you. Any public comments? Noted verbal, nonverbal comments.
Body language.
Yeah. So next agenda is the library director's report. Mo, you're on.
So, good evening, everybody. How you like this rain?
Not very much.
Yeah. Better than the snow.
Still have that too. All right, so I try to make my reports somewhat of the same format each month. So sorry if I'm in a boring order here. But the building for the month of February, the big achievement that we hit was we finally got our certificate of occupancy.
Yay.
Yay, I know. And that was huge. We had to dot our I's and cross our T's and hit all the check boxes that the planning department mostly put in front of us for that. So that was accomplished after, we had to add a bike rack because we said we were going to have one undercover, and the one that we had was very, very close to the canopy thing that goes out to 6th Street, but technically it was not under it, by an inch or two or something. So we added one. So that kind of thing, So we got that. We got a new chair rail in the community room, which was just something we should have thought of and we didn't. We have one upstairs in the conference room. So you look at it and you're like, yeah, of course we need that in the community room, because the same day as our grand opening, people pressed up against that wall and started digging into it with those chairs, because that's just what happens. So that looks really good. Another thing we missed was there was no cooling unit on the studio, which is right behind the community room, which is where all the recording equipment is that works like this. And of course it's just IT equipment, so it generates all kinds of heat. So that's installed, but in order to make it work, we actually have to turn off the heat in the Carnegie and for 5 days or something. And I'm okay, then we're waiting until we at least get an ambient temperature of 50, and they can bring in heaters and stuff, but it's but anyway, in order to connect the systems, that's what has to be done. And I've asked them 20 times, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? So I am assured that this is what has to happen. So today, I know this will be in the March report, but today the work started to replace the fire sprinkler system in the Carnegie, which was another thing that didn't get done in the renovation because it had been redone in 2001, and so it should have lasted, but it was not installed properly, but it looked like it was fine, and we didn't realize there was a problem until it started leaking after we reopened, and then we realized there was a huge problem. So fortunately, we did come in under budget, so we had money to for these kinds of things as they turned up. It's not a big deal at all, which is awesome. It's an awesome position to be in. So that started today, and the workers who are doing that are very wonderful on not being intrusive to the library and the library patrons. They started work at 5 a.m. in order to get most of what they needed to do in a day done by 10. So it is great to work with people like that. But we're following up on the punch list and all the little things like that. So it still occupies a bunch of our time. We're ready to be over with it, but that's just the way of a new building,
But still, as you said, all within budget or within
Yeah.
savings.
Yep. We're still going to end up having a little bit left over.
Right.
And then the other thing that started happening is that the contract for the RFID equipment, and that's all being purchased through the county, just because then it can be all centralized for all of the libraries. That got approved. The order went out, and so that we got our first bill to reimburse, the county for that. And that money, of course, was all set aside in the building. So that's just been kind of sitting, waiting for that project to come down the pike. And I think actually we're going to have more than enough on that too.
How much was it?
Well, our share will be about 230,000.
And split among how many libraries?
No. We pay specifically for what we
What you
get.
get, okay.
Yeah, for what we get. So that will include all the tags for every single item that we need to tag, because that's the RFID thing that gets read. It will include all the self-checks, including 2 that will be standing self-checks in the lobby. And that includes the conveyor belt, the automated materials handler, which is the conveyor belt, and everything that goes with that, the bins, everything. And then any staff stations that, for checkout and downstairs for cataloging and all that. It just that includes everything. So, and there's been a committee that's been working on like all things RFID for like over a year to like make sure that everything is thought of ahead of time. And so that it's all kind of standardized throughout the county, that we're doing things the same.
That's
So,
for how many volumes total?
Hmm?
How many volumes? Like for how many, what's the holding for how many books?
For
Is
the
it
entire
based-
county?
Yeah, no, for
Oh,
the.
for us?
Yeah, for the cost. Does it break down like per
Yeah.
book?
I would have to like look at that. I don't.
Okay. That's okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get that.
But you're not doing the entire collection that's not on the shelves, right? Like it's the circulating.
Well, we don't have a collection that's not on the shelves.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
all gone.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, that must be good. Okay.
Yep. So we're tagging everything that circulates.
Okay.
And so for instance, like we do have stuff that doesn't circulate, like the historical collection,
Mm-hmm.
right? However, it is, that's a good question. Are we tagging those items?
Mm-hmm.
Because, we could allow certain ones to circulate on a, per request basis. We always consider like some of those things can go out overnight or whatever. Good question. Anyway, so we've got the money for that. We're in really good shape, which is so awesome to be in a position where you're really good shape and you have a cushion. And so, for instance, like the self-checks are, I want to say, 30,000 a piece sounds way too much, but they're a chunk. But like, if we decide we need another one in the lobby, like I believe I would have enough money to do that, and enough space probably too, and an outlet in the floor even, which is great because it's a concrete floor. So you have to think about these things ahead of time.
So is there a timeline, since you've already gotten the bill? Is there a...
We're going to have, for sure, we're going to have all the equipment before the end of the fiscal year, and we'll have all of our items tagged. Not everything might be like completely up and running by then, but our initial goal was by the end of the fiscal year to have it all, but then the contract got bogged down a little bit. Yeah.
Yes, because that's coming
And-
up.
yeah.
End of the fiscal year.
I know. And we're just getting billed for like half to start with. Yeah. So, so let's see. We have, there is a new committee in Link that I believe they call the Multicultural Committee, but it's focusing on patrons who are not English speakers. And we don't have anybody on staff who speaks Russian, but we do have some people who speak Spanish. And in particular, we have one person who's been with us for part-time. Her name is Brenda Edmonds, and she's kind of becoming our, she does our Spanish story time on Wednesdays. And we're hoping to send her to Guadalajara to the big book fair where you get the best Spanish language materials. Like, Have you ever gone to that, Laura?
I haven't.
You've heard of it, right?
I have.
Yeah, it's
I
supposed
mean,
to be
it's
like
very, it's amazing how hard it is to acquire Spanish language materials in the United States. And if you're serving a population that has high numbers, it's a frustration. When I worked in Rhode Island, we'd actually go down to New York and go to bookstores within neighborhoods that were
makes sense,
predominantly,
yeah.
but that's the big one. Yeah, the Guadalajara one.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And the American Library Association picks up some of the cost if you can send people too. So it's a really good deal. I mean, you get big bang for your buck on that. So anyway, that's turning out really well. You know, we're starting we've been working on programming for summer reading for a long time. And we're setting it up so it's something of a competition between the police and the firemen. So we're hoping to get like giant cutouts of the chief from each department. And then the kids, as they earn, they'll earn like a sticker that looks like a quarter as they read. And they get to come in and then stick it on their favorite chief.
Chief.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we're hoping also to have one day that's kind of like I forget what they're going to call it, but like a vehicle petting zoo. And, you know, hopefully can get some people can bring down to the fire station since the fire station's already right there. And some police cars and maybe I have to talk to Public Works and maybe get some dump trucks over here and stuff like that. Because, you know, kids love vehicles. So that would be one of our events as well. So speaking of programs, the youth programs have just been going gangbusters. I mean, you can see by the total under the children's programs that we have 34 programs and we had almost 1,200 people, which is just, I mean, that's kids and parents, but it's just nuts. It's great. It's a great problem to have when you have too many people in the library for that kind of stuff. It's just, you know.
Well, you can see the numbers like just your toddler time. You must have about 30.
Oh, yeah. So some of them are really big. So we're offering 2 story times a day, at least 2 days a week, you know, so that parents can kind of, you know, so we can kind of like make each group a little bit smaller, you know, but like when you're dealing with kids, sometimes work better than others because of naps and all that stuff too. So there's not a huge range that you can do those and still make it work. But anyway, so that helps the space and helps the librarian who's trying to run the program, of course, to spread it out a little bit more. And they don't have to do a separate program. It's just duplicating the same program. But it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. So it's great. And then to get back to staff topics a little bit. So our first mission is to hire more part-time people. And by part-time, I mean under 20 hours a week. Because we've lost 2 good people to full-time jobs. And then Denise, who you met last month, has been promoted up. So we need to replace her desk hours. So we're going to hire some new on-calls, is what we call them. And then we're going to start the process of hiring 3 30-hour-a-week people to support this craziness that we have and get away from like so many part-time people under 20-hour a week. We need to like have a better, stronger, deeper foundation of like permanent staff. So we're going to do it one by one, but we'll start with the children's department because that's obviously the greatest area of need. And so I can tell you the youth services person is pretty darn excited about that. And I am too. I think it'll be really good, and I think it'll provide us with a really good foundation. Especially since we're open 5 days a week, we can arrange it so those people are working more of the like weekend, like Sunday, Monday thing. Like right now I'm pretty strong Tuesday through Saturday. And Saturday is nuts, by the way, from what I hear. I try not to be there. But like Sunday and Monday, we're kind of just a little bit less, you know, deep on staff. So we'll have those people kind of cover those days, and that'll be really good. I'll feel really strong about our staff then. Then we've also been starting to do a lot of tours. And so I'm going to start noting those because that takes a lot of time, not a lot of work, but we have come up with kind of a, like a list of FAQs that for staff who lead the tours to make sure that we're all kind of like hitting the same information. And, you know, I reviewed them, of course, to make sure that they're all kind of accurate, because this is how urban legends start, you know. You wouldn't believe what's on the roof of the library, you know. And then we've started doing more outreach too, especially children's. Barrett is trying to go out to different events, which is just awesome. But then also Bonnie is starting to go to senior homes as well, and just kind of strike up a relationship with, senior homes, and talk to them about what we can provide for them in the way of library services. You know, we can't really bring programs to them, but maybe we can bring them library books or something, and kind of like a homebound kind of situation, only at a senior home. So we'll see. I mean, we just want to make sure we start the conversation. So we've been doing that kind of thing. The budget, the draft budget, I just talked to Maria, our deputy finance director, today, and she thought that what we drafted up looked really good. And so that included all the positions that I just told you about, and it also gets us up to the point where our collections, I'm talking all collections, I'm talking like, online as well as print, but it's about 10% of our budget, which is a kind of one of those standard best practices for public libraries to have their about 10% of the budget going towards collections. So that's there, and since the money mostly comes from the district, that shouldn't be a problem, but the city does make a contribution, so fingers crossed. I told you I'd review the Oregon Library Association standards, and I did start. Let the record note that I did start. So hopefully by next month. And then once we get done with this stuff, we can talk about the policy changes. But I did want to point out on the statistical report that we've had our second month of over 30,000 people a month in the building. So December and February were both over 30,000, which is a heck of a lot of people walking through our doors. And January was like 27.5 or something. So basically we are over twice the number that we were doing the same time last year. So the new building is working.
And are you still seeing new people coming in? I've been in there a
Yeah.
couple times, and it's first timers, and they still have that kind of awe when they kind
Yeah.
of come in and just.
Yeah, let's see. Where is the library card thing on here? I know I put it in.
I think it's on the second page. Oh, no, patron registrations.
Yeah, where is that, Laura?
Just above technical services, if you go up
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
doubled it.
335 new cards. The month, I think it was November, the month after we opened, we did 385. And that's just like, yeah, I mean, we're used to seeing numbers under 200 a month. So, yeah, we're doing a lot of things like that, patron register. And the, I forgot to get the cultural pass number this month. I'll fix that for next month. The internet sessions, it's like up, but not like by that much, especially considering last year we were probably at, down to like 6 computers or something, remember, in our old place? So I don't, I think more people are bringing their laptops in. But like the self-check is way up. Reference is about the same. The programs are, children's especially, really doing really well. So, I mean, I think we're just having more traffic of people coming in and using it as a space, hanging out, reading, using their laptop, now that there's actually space to do that. So, I'm real pleased with it. Oh, and then the volunteer hours also does not include the bookstore. So I will change that for next month. But we have a lot more volunteers who are just doing shelving now on a regular basis that we see week after week and just doing shelving for us, which is awesome. It really, really helps a lot. So basically, the only jobs that volunteers do are shelving and then cleaning discs and running discs through the disc cleaner that we have downstairs, which is like, you know, a really boring job that you actually have to pay attention to as it operates. Like the worst kind of job, you know. So it's great to have a volunteer come in and do those. Yeah. So, I mean, because, you know, we don't really want to give volunteers other work that staff would do. So, but now that we have room for volunteers, you know, we've been able to go back and look at recruit people, and I mean they've been wanting to volunteer at the library for a long time, a lot of people. So any questions about like kind of what's going on in the building and any of the statistics? Ken, you've got a question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm the new guy on the block. How do you physically get material from one library to the other?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have in the district arrangement, you know, the county wanted to get out of the business of running libraries, but they were willing to continue providing the libraries that existed with services. And so what they do is the county funds a department that is up at the county offices, well, in one of their extended buildings, and they provide the courier service for all of us. So we get a list called a pick list, which are the holds that are placed by people in other libraries. We pull those items, and then this office that's paid for by the county, we call it Network. I don't know how we landed there, but anyway. They sort everything out and they distribute everything. So they have a courier service that goes to every library every day of the week. And that's how we get it. So we get crates of things every day, and then staff like puts it on the hold shelf. And then people from Oregon City come and pick it up. And it's pretty slick. And then when we go to RFID, we're going to be able to, they're going to get like a gigantic automated materials handler, gigantic conveyor belt up at the Network. And it's going to be like 28 bins or something ridiculous. And we're not even going to, like right now, if it goes to Wilsonville, we put it in this crate. If it goes to Lake Oswego, we put the item in this crate and we sort it all out. But once we get RFID, if we get something, we're just going to put it in the crate that goes up to the Network office, and they'll sort it out there. And it's going to save us all like so much time, because then we'll get materials in and it will just be for us, and we don't even have to think. And the stuff that goes out just goes out to generic, comes back to us. Out generic, back to us. Be awesome.
Where is this Network office?
So it's, do you know where the passport office is? Right by Benchmade?
Yeah, okay.
It's in that building.
And that's county.
And that's county.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if they lease space in that building or if they own that building. I have no idea. But anyway, it's very nice. And the people that work there, and they're amazing. And they provide a bunch of IT services to us as well, because what they do is they also are in charge of the software that runs all of our operations. So it's kind of like we have two networks going on. We've got the library software from them, and then like we have city like programs and other things. So all of us are kind of like on this funky double network kind of system when it comes to IT, but we make it work. They make it work, the people who do that stuff. So they oversee all the software stuff. They oversee cultural passes. A lot of money passes through them. So like if we agree as a group that we want a cultural pass to the Japanese garden, they pay the Japanese garden for whatever that Japanese garden wants to charge us, and then they send out an invoice and charge 8 ways or whatever, how many libraries we have. And so they're the fiscal agent for a bunch of our things, which is, and since we're all doing RFID, that's why they decided to be the fiscal agent for that and deal with that contract so that we didn't have like 11 different contracts with the vendor, made it so much easier. So they're fantastic. Can't say enough about these people.
Good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a great relationship. We love them very much.
And that's where money from property taxes funds at your county assessment.
Well, actually, the money from, so I think they get paid out of the general fund of the county. The district, the district library district money goes to the county and they distribute it for us. That's another thing that the county does because it's a county service district. So they have to be in charge of it. Ultimately, the Board of County Commissioners are in charge of like what happens to that money. But I believe that the network office that does the support for the library is actually paid out of county general fund, I believe. Yeah. So it's nice because it doesn't take away from the district money that's supposed to go out to the libraries. And they provide invaluable service. We couldn't do it without them.
Thanks. Any other questions on the statistics?
Okay. So we want to go on to the policies. So let's see here. Let's start. I think there's a copy in the back. I hope. Okay, let's start with the one that says Oregon City Public Library small conference room and everything room. Well, first of all, we call it large conference room, but it's our only really conference room. We call the other one community room. But if you go down, I'm sorry this didn't print in color, I decided not to reprint it. If you go down to the bottom of the page where it says reservation procedure, the third bullet is like slightly highlighted in gray. What we noticed is that we had this set up so that you had to be 16 years old in order to reserve either room. And what we discovered is that a bunch of kids who were 13 wanted to use the everything room as a little study room. Well, it's right off the teen area, and they're 13, so we went, well, that's a disconnect. Wait a minute. If they're doing fine, if they're not doing fine, we'll deal with it as a behavioral problem. But if they're 13, then they fit into the teens.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we at least try it to do that? So accordingly, I changed this language so that we would keep the large conference room to older, 16 and above. Although, we're willing to consider special requests, you know what I mean? And then change the everything room, since it's right off the teen section, to 13 and above. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's kind of one of those things, you use it and you're like, wait a minute, we did this wrong. All right, so could I get you guys to make a motion on that?
So that's the only change on this
That's the only
one?
change on that one.
Okay. So somebody want to make a motion?
Move that we accept the change.
Okay, thank you. A second?
I second.
Second. So I've been moved and seconded to accept the change to change the age to 13 years old for reserving the everything room. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
All right, so this one is a little bit more going on. And I tried to show you my track changes, which kind of worked and kind of didn't. But you approved it last month, and then I got to looking at it, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's stuff in here I don't like. So first of all, you had drawn my attention to the fact that we said the community room is available during regular library hours, and then they're further down the road. We changed it, right? So that further down the road is on the last page, and it's number 13. And I still probably don't have it right. Because I may want to change it in both places. But now I changed this one. I took out a whole bunch of language, and I just said, Available for use before or after the library is closed on a case-by-case basis only.
Mhm.
And I could use this very same language in both places.
I would just leave it there.
Just leave it there?
Yeah.
That's fine. And then I had a whole bunch of language in there that was very specific about how people were going to exit and stuff. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. That's not
That's not
policy
details,
information.
no.
That's process. That should be in the instructions on like that we work out with the people.
Have you
know?
have you had requests for the community room to be used after hours yet?
Yeah, mostly from like neighborhood associations and stuff like that. And you know, right now our doors are not, our sliding glass doors are not coordinating properly, so a library staff still has to be there. Because like right now we have two sets of, you know, the two sliding glass doors, and even if I like lock the inner door, once the outer door opens, the inner door opens. It's really stupid. So it's just a programming thing, but it's taken a really long time to get somebody back to look at that. And so we've been just very selective about letting people use it because, like, you know, by the time we close, everybody pretty much wants to go home. You know, it's already 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Who can authorize the after hours?
Right now, me.
Just you?
Yep. So right now, either it's a group that I've approved of, or it's a library program only, right? And so, like, for instance, Willamette Falls Legacy Project, which is partially a city project, you know, they've used it a couple times, and I'm like, well, of course, because that's a city thing, you know? And so we're keeping it pretty close to, like, who we allow, only because it's a staff resource to have somebody there. So, and in the future, it will be easier, but, you know, it's still like, there's technology in there, and, you know, we're just going to keep this pretty close, pretty tight, which leads me to some of the other things
Can I
that.
do one follow-up? So I didn't know,
Sure.
Ken, were you wondering if there needs to be something in number 13 that says the decision is made by the library director or designee? Were you thinking that maybe it needed to be clear who got to decide?
It could be. I'm not a person who's been involved in a lot of this kind of thing.
That would be fine to be stated.
But, you know, just, you know, you don't want somebody who's the janitor saying, oh, Sherry, come on in.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
So that might be just another addition. That
Say that again for me.
Something about that. You've got on a case-by-case basis only, and somewhere you want to put the decision
Determined
by director or their designee.
Okay, I'll just add that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you.
And isn't that still a little in conflict with number 13?
Well, that's the thing. If you think it is, then I can make sure that they say the same thing in the.
Just a basic, like on case by case, is available during regular library hours, except on a case by case basis, or something like that.
Yeah.
I could say C number 13.
Yeah. Oh, even better.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Yeah, I don't want to, I think it's a sense of advertising it too early. I mean, I can understand you wanting to keep it sort of selective, although it's an open space, but due to the, I mean, not liability issues, but I think there is potential for complications sometimes that maybe, C number 13 or, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm actually comfortable with it just saying community room is available during regular library hours. That's basically what you're saying. Then there's some exception on a case by case, you know.
Sure.
So I would you don't want to put up front all of the detail.
Yeah,
Right.
everybody, y'all calm down.
Because the basic is available during regular hours through the regular reservation process, which doesn't have to be by you or your designee.
Exactly.
You know.
It just is, you know, it's open to everybody. Yeah, and the only reason that I get involved is just because it becomes a staff resource thing.
Sure.
You know, and if once we get this figured out, maybe even that would change a little bit. But like right now, and we can change this as much as we want, that's fine, you know? I mean, I could see us changing it multiple times, but like right now. So what do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever
Okay,
you
just
want.
leave it for now.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, okay, and then if you go down on back to page 1, under use guidelines, there's this whole thing about applying, you know, applications and blah, 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 this real formal thing. And it's like, you know, people call up and they ask the question and we say yes or no, it's gonna work. The application thing is like, no way. I just pulled it out. So that's back on the first page, Ken. Red, bunch of red.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. If
Okay,
it works
good.
for you, yeah.
Yeah, it works for us fine.
yeah.
And then let's see. Down on number 7, on page 2, big red block, where it says $20 deposit, blah, blah, blah. We just, you know, we don't even want to get into the business of deposits right now. It's not even like an easy thing to do, you know what I mean? Taking money and giving it back. It's really difficult with our system. And if we're not going to do applications, we don't need a deposit, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, let's deal with that when we get that complicated and we'll figure out a system.
Which means you need to take it out of number 4.
Is it in number 4 as
Yeah.
well?
Last sentence says organizations that do not clean their room thoroughly will not receive a refund on their deposit.
Thank you.
You
Thank
can
you,
say
thank you.
future use of the room may be denied instead of the refund on deposit bit.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you. So those are the major things, you know, because I got back looking at what you guys had approved, and I'm like, wait a minute, we haven't been doing applications, we haven't been doing deposits, why do we even keep it in here? Let's just take it out for now, and if things change in the future, we'll modify. You know, you're supposed to look at your policies frequently, so it would be okay. That look all right with those things that you guys caught? Yep. Okay, so do you want to, you know, since we approved this before by motion, do you want to do that again?
Does anybody want to do
I suggest we accept the changes in here.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been moved by Scott, seconded by Ken. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
Great, well, that really pretty much summarizes and ends what I had to say, but Steve did bring up a topic that I did want you guys to know about. You know, the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association was very heavily involved in the building and the outside of the building and et cetera. And a couple people from the association have let us know that they're very unhappy with the sign on 7th and John Adams, the big white sign. They don't like the design of it. And they're willing to fundraise in order to replace it. And so this is an ongoing conversation that is happening with the Parks Department.
I like that sign. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay.
Well, I thought the sign was fine as well. And the sign, you know, I didn't realize it would end up being a controversial thing. I thought I was moving forward with the sign according to, like, you know, the input that I had received from the appropriate parties. I thought I was moving forward in good faith.
Okay.
So, but no, and nobody thinks I'm the bad guy on this or anything like that. But, you know, it's there. So it may get a little contentious because there are some people now that we know that really don't think the sign should be replaced because it looks just fine. So you may or may not be part of that group. I don't know. I may get a little prickly on the language of the sign if people insist that the word Carnegie be on it, because it's not a Carnegie library, it's the Oregon City Library, so, or public library. So there's like some of those conversations happening out there too. So
Are they happening at the neighborhood association meetings? Which as
very little.
Because I don't attend those, but I am in the neighborhood, so I'm just curious if I'm somehow missing.
I mean, I think it's come up.
Okay.
I only attend those when they invite me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so who does get to decide the sign? Is there a,
Well,
it's on city property, so I assume in the end the city does get final
city
say.
gets to decide, yeah.
And what happens if it's not changed?
There will be some unhappy people in the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association
And what?
who are very,
yeah, supporters.
outspoken.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
and I mean, we are in that
Mm-hmm.
area as well, and we want to get along with our neighbors. And I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of psychic energy on this because you know how I'm pretty much been. It's outside, my business is inside. I want to let parks have a free hand with what's in the park. However, I'm very opinionated as well, and I also don't want to see good money go down the drain.
Can I ask, is the objection to the sign the font and size and sort of modernness of it that ties into the building, or is the objection that it somehow doesn't specify Carnegie nor Oregon City?
I think the initial objection to it is that it's big and white and too modern.
Okay.
And then if you're going to change things, you may as well think about some of these other things.
And was it part of the architectural design originally?
Yeah. But I mean, like, we didn't really get into specifications about what it said.
Well, it ties into the
we
building.
didn't
I
like-
only asked that aesthetically. I think that there is, it fits aesthetically with that portion of the building really well.
The new part.
The new part.
Yeah, and I think they wanted it to fit more with the old part. It's my understanding.
Okay.
And,
And I have to admit, I can't even picture the
Picture it.
sign,
It's
so
very
I'm going to have to go
accurate.
out and look now. He's like,
I
just
know
have to-
as I drive up, and
I
I really like how clear it is and how it's visible from a very busy road. I mean, it's the clarity is lovely about it, and I think it's one of the more attractive features.
right. And so, the library board may or may not want to weigh in on this at some point in time. It probably will come up in front of PRAC, which is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. I don't want to start World War III over a sign. You know what I mean?
We can bring up the slide.
We could talk about the
I don't
slide.
like the slide.
The slide, may get more discussion in the future. Thank God for Phil Lewis, our new parks guy. I've probably contributed to making his life a living hell, but there you go. The library's in a park. What you gonna do? So now you've been informed, and
Yeah.
the next time I hear
Thank
of
you.
something, I'll kind of loop you guys in. How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'm more interested in the one we talked last time about the values, and that would be more on the inside.
Yeah, and it is more on the inside. And I did take some wood down to, I think I need to bring a bigger slab of wood down to, there's this guy in Salem who will like sand down that maple really nice so that it's usable to put a sign on. So I'm trying to like get more of that wood done. There's a couple of signs I need to get done out of that wood. One of them is just a dedication plaque. We don't have a dedication plaque either. And so, it just, all these little projects take time, but working on that.
Well, let us know what you need.
Thanks. I will. Thank you very much. Appreciate your support.
I'll go look at the sign.
Yeah,
We'll have to.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you're like, wow, what does that thing look like?
Well, my littlest one is just starting to read. He's a late bloomer reading, and he's reading signs, and that's one that he has read because it is so clear. So
Nice.
I have a little
That's
fondness.
great.
I have a little fondness for that sign.
Awesome. That's
Sort
that's apparently how I learned to read too,
Yeah,
reading
signs.
signs. They're awesome for that. Cool. All right, so that's all I have.
Okay. Communications. We got.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
Linda Van Heverbeek from Oregon City, but specifically right now from the foundation. And I made a list for the first time.
Wow.
I don't ramble, do I?
No.
No, you don't.
All right, so the most important thing on my list, number one, is the fact that the Library Foundation is presenting a check at the City Commission meeting on March 15th, early in the business. And we're encouraging all of our board members to come. And if any of you want to come and support us and cheer and be happy, you're more than welcome.
Can you say the amount of the check?
Oh, I did write down, let's see, $296,636.
Wow. That's awesome. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Great.
I think I remembered right. It's in my back seat. We can all look at it.
Yeah, it's,
I had a presentation check made, so.
Wow.
Very nice. Thank
And
you.
right now, what
Wow.
we've been working on is naming. We had a little exercise that we were doing about naming on some of the big naming signs. And then Karen's been doing a lot of work, sending a lot of communication, mail and email, and talking to people about the drawer front naming. So that's going on. We're planning a meeting, I think I might have mentioned it last month, with the Friends, the beginning of April, to do all of our mutual concerns and where we're going to go from here type stuff. And
I just want to break in and compliment these guys for doing that, because it makes for way smoother operations between all of us when the boards of these two, the foundation and the Friends, meet annually together to discuss that. And, you know, it's not like this everywhere. Let me just say this again. We have not just amazing supporters, but they're willing to work with each other and collaborate, and it's just so much better for the library. I can't tell you, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it is nice to be able to work together, yes.
It is. It is. Moving on. And then moving on from here, we're still determining what we're going to do, so that kind of feeds into talking to the Friends. And we're going to try and implement some of the things from the joint meeting in the upcoming year. And then we're moving on to the actual signs. So the first batch of signs has gone to the printer, I understand. And then we're going to have a little party, putting all these plaques in the drawer. It's going to be so much fun. And then the next important thing too is an investment committee, because we will have some money left over. And we're hoping to get the most money so that we can continue to take care of libraries' needs. And we'll have to see if we're going to do additional fundraising, which I think we probably are, but and then how we're going to continue the board, you know, in the future and stuff. So we've been doing a lot of work. Karen especially. Karen Martini is such a gem. I'm so thankful.
We got
Thank
so
you.
lucky with her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
She was on the library board when I joined the library board back then.
So don't think any of you are going away.
Just kind of keep moving on.
Like a bad
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you couldn't be on the library board and talk about a new library and then not move things along, you know. So I think I told Mo this once, that I kind of like helped one of the original ones. We took a field trip for one of our meetings out to Estacada to look at the library out there and talk to the people that put that library district together, and that was before the county library district. And they asked us to wait.
Until then.
But we're excited to
That
see
you
it,
stayed-
see
yeah,
that,
been-
think about it, and help it come into fruition. You know, I've worked on the PAC, I've been on the library board, I've been on the Friends, I've been on the foundation.
And now you can see the, results. It's pretty exciting. Can I ask about the city council meeting? What time does that start? Do you-
7?
7.
7,
Okay.
and
Is anybody able to come? I'm not. I have
It's a
something else at
Wednesday.
7.
Wednesday, March 15th.
It's next Wednesday.
Yeah,
It is next Wednesday.
and should be early in the meeting.
Yeah, we try to do
Possibly.
those kinds of presentations early so people don't have to
Possibly.
sit through all the boring stuff.
If somebody could, that'd be great. But I know that I cannot. So,
I have to check.
okay. Thank you. So,
I'm Jan Salisbury with Friends of the Oregon City Library. We had our meeting today and just dealing with regular boring stuff. I won't go through all that for you, but to add to the volunteer hours, last month they had 272 hours, and that's working in the bookstore. So that doesn't count other hours outside of the bookstore. So a lot of hours. They've gotten several new volunteers, so that will help and make things go on. The management team that works with the bookstore is just phenomenal. in expanding the bookstore services, besides doing some outreach, we've had several organizations ask for books, like My Father's Heart and one of the county facilities. And so we get plenty of books. Last year, I think I might have already mentioned, over 50,000 items came through there. So we're able to share. And when I do the year-end report, I say one of our purposes is to find a way to recycle and reuse media and books and stuff. And so that's beyond just supporting the library. We're providing that type of service for the community as well. So some of the places besides the farmers market, some of you may be familiar with that, we have a books shelf in the library where books are sold for $5, and that has been proving to be very lucrative just recently, so that's great. Another is the bistro that's down at the train station. They have a shelf of books there, and for the service of them doing that for us, they get 25% of the sales. So that will take a while, I'm sure, like anything to do. So it's expanding that way. And those are kind of the main things, besides looking at our goals and budget and all the stuff we need to continue. But the meeting that we'll have in April, it's on April 3rd, will, I think, be very lucrative and give us all some guidance. So.
Great. Thank you.
And I know you've been trying to recruit for somebody to do some more web-based stuff. Any luck?
We have. Actually, Steve has volunteered to help out with that. So we'll go on from there.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So.
Any other
Thank you,
questions?
Linda. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, both of you. Thank you for all of your work. Last is just if there are any future agenda items.
We've talked about, I
Just
think.
the library
The
standards.
standards, down the road, the strategic plan review.
Okay. Any other business for tonight that anybody has? If not, I think we can adjourn at